She pulls India and Russia closer as America drifts into isolation. Populist right parties surge to the top in France, the UK, and Germany. The Dutch embrace a 4-day work week. JB Pritzker, governor of Illinois, sheds pounds and sparks 2028 speculation. And David French, New York Times columnist, exposes MAGA's outrage machine from Sydney Sweeney to Cracker Barrel. Welcome to Filtered with TJ Walker. Hi and welcome. I'm TJ. Thanks so much for joining me today on this special weekend edition of Filtered. If you're new to the program, this is where we look at the top business, technology, and culture stories of the day and filter it through the lens of communication skills and personal development skills to help you become more successful. Let's dive right into story one. How Xi gains while America loses ground. According to the New York Times, China's president, Xi is using this week's summit and military parade to showcase Beijing's growing influence, and it comes at America's expense. Xi welcomed both Vladimir Putin of Russia and Narendra Modi of India. Both men once leaned closer to Washington, but U.S. policies under President Trump have pushed them away. Trump doubled tariffs on Indian goods to 50%, souring relations with New Delhi. He also embraced Putin with a red carpet welcome in Alaska and echoed Russia's claims that Ukraine should give up land. That gave Xi the perfect opening. Instead of being isolated, he now stands shoulder to shoulder with two of the world's biggest powers. Analysts told the Times that Xi probably feels more besieged by visiting heads of state than encircled by the United States. So what's the real message here? America, thanks to Trump, has become isolated, and China is the big winner. Everybody thinks China is now the cool kid on the block. India wants to deal with them. Russia wants to deal with them. Everyone wants to deal with them. The United States is looked at as an ugly bully, and we're becoming pariahs around the world. Let's dig a little deeper. It's especially troubling to me what's happened to India, which is the largest democracy in the world, although it's becoming increasingly authoritarian. It is the largest in terms of population. I mean, it's hard to count once you get more than 1.5 billion people, but by a lot of counts these days, it has more people than China does. And it's just not a good country to alienate. To just arbitrarily say, okay, we're putting a 50% tariff on everything from India is striking a lot of Indians as just contemptuous. And Modi, for all of his flaws, is having to stand up for the people of India, the business people of India, the entrepreneurs, the manufacturers. And so he's got to make deals wherever he can. So if China is willing to trade with them and they have less of a dependence on the United States, then so be it. Now, India happens to be a country I've had a very close relationship with for the last quarter century. I've had a partnership. I've had media training worldwide. India, there in Mumbai for many years, not active currently. I've had the good privilege of going over there, working with some of the top political families there and some of the top businesses. And I'm always struck by the love for Americans when I go over there, the respect for Americans. Well, that's no more. Sure, I'm positive that many Indians still like certain Americans and certain American thought leaders and business leaders. But this idea that we can just put a 50% tariff, and let's not forget, tax is a tariff is a tax. The idea that we can just thumb our nose at India and act them like they are garbage, act like they're completely inconsequential, and they're going to just sit back and take it. It's absolute utter nonsense. Look at it. Let's look at a few more facts. This is a doubling of tariffs on Indian goods. That strains ties. Xi is hosting both Putin and Modi at this summit. And now we have a situation where China and Russia are pushing an alternative vision to World War II history. And it is not a good thing for the world. It's not a good thing for the believers of democracy. Trump's tariffs on India oil boost China's Russian crude. And I've got a break-in right here. I've got some people breaking in. We're going to have to say goodbye. We're in the middle of a show here, folks. We're going to close the door. And some of my helpers, my daughter and her friend, just bursting into the studio. But that's okay. I am very fortunate to be able to have a home studio these days. I've just moved from an outside studio and a home in downtown Delray to a new home in another location in Palm Beach County in Florida. And so working from home as well as office, which makes it easier for doing things on the weekends like this. So we'll be back to weekend fun in a moment, but not so much fun if you are an Indian manufacturer and your number one export client was the United States, and now you have a 50% tariff, 50% tax added to you. This puts people out of business. This makes people go hungry. This makes people say, I cannot trust the United States. And my message to you, unfortunately, in India is, no, you cannot trust the United States. We are showing every single day, we are quick to betray anyone who doesn't instantly follow the whims, the caprice of a foolish, blind dictator, which is what the United States faces right now. Folks, this is primarily a business show analyzing top business stories, technology stories, and culture stories. But one of the unfortunate aspects of having an authoritarian leader as the head of a country is the authoritarian affects every aspect of business, of technology, and of culture. So it makes it somewhat difficult to not talk about it from time to time. I give it to you objectively. I'm not here to grind a political axe. I'm a centrist, and I'm going to give you objective analysis based on my 40 years of experience helping world leaders communicate effectively, whether they are billionaires on Wall Street, CEOs, Fortune 500 executives. That's what I'm doing right here in order to help you learn from the news. It's so easy to read the news, get depressed, consume the news online, and just feel like everything's bad. My promise to you is if you consume news here, you're going to be better. You're going to improve your own communication skills and personal development skills. Unfortunately, the only real lesson here is you've got to preserve and protect your relationships with people. You can't be seen as arbitrary. You can't be seen as capricious, because if you do that, it's a big world. Your customers can find your vendors can find other people to work with. Your customers can find other people. Your partners can find other people. Individuals can do it. Businesses can do it. And corporations and companies can do it as well. Back in a moment. Filtered is brought to you by the following. Want to advertise here? You better be legit. No crypto, no junk food, no supplements. Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. Want to become a better speaker, leader, or communicator? Start with the TJ Walker Success Library. It's 5 of my most practical books, covering everything from public speaking to meeting interviews and persuasive messaging, all for only $9.95. I've trained presidents and Fortune 500 CEOs, and now you can get the same wisdom in a fast, affordable format. Go to tjwalker.com/books and download your copies instantly. Thanks for listening. If you like today's episode, you'll love my online courses at MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. Check them out now and level up your skills. And we are back. And hello, Patrick, my good friend, joining us from the West Coast of America today. Wherever you are, whether you're in India, because we do have a lot of friends and viewers and members of our community in India, whether you're in South America, Europe, or the West Coast, we're happy you're here today. I'm TJ Walker, special weekend edition of Filtered with TJ Walker, where we look at the top stories of the day. Let's dive right into story 2. Europe's rightward tilt. According to the Wall Street Journal, populist right-wing parties now lead opinion polls in Europe's 3 biggest economies, the UK, France, and Germany. In France, National Rally holds a consistent polling lead. In Britain, Nigel Farage's Reform UK has surged ahead of both Labour and the Conservatives. And in Germany, the AfD has edged past the CDU in recent weeks. Analysts say leaders face an ascendant far right powered by immigration pressures and cost of living angst. Germany's economy shrank last quarter, while the UK saw nearly 30,000 small boat crossings through August. Despite tighter German borders and falling asylum numbers, voters say they are seeing a lot of action but not feeling any effect. The result is mounting pressure on centrist governments and a continent bracing for political turbulence. Okay, so what's the real message here? Major democracies around the world, including the biggest ones in Europe, are all facing the same challenge. People are upset about immigration, they're upset about a rising cost of living, and right-wing populists are the best at pointing fingers, the best at getting people angrier and agitating. And that works temporarily. The problem is solutions. They don't really have any solutions. Right-wing populists are all the same around the world. They're good at one thing, making people angry, but running governments effectively, not so much. Let's dig a little deeper here. There is something about the modern world that has an infrastructure of social media where a lie, where anger goes around the world 1,000 times before truth can go 10 feet or can go to the next door neighbor's house. That's the problem. And this does have a disproportionate positive impact on right-wing extremists, populist, right-wing authoritarians. Now, at some point, you would think that perhaps far left-wingers could capture this, communists for that matter. But they don't seem to be able to do it. They don't seem to really understand social media, and they're not able to get people angry about pocketbook issues the way the right wing does. What right-wing authoritarians do that's so masterful, and I'm not endorsing this, is they really play on people's fears against other people, maybe people who don't look like you, maybe people whose skin is darker than yours. They're really, really good at playing up these fears. And that's frankly a big problem. It's a problem for centrists, for moderates, everywhere, because it's very, very easy to stoke hatreds against the other, the different. So when you combine this personal animus with people who look scary, aren't from your country, maybe don't speak the same language as you, and you talk about economic issues, about your own pocketbook and rising prices, it fuels support for right-wing authoritarians, extremists, populists of that sort. The big problem that so many left-wing, and I'm not endorsing left-wing communist or socialist either, but the problem they have is they tend to just focus on intellectual matters of pure intellect. They talk about things like tax rates. They talk about things like, well, the billionaire pays, 22% less on their income tax than you do. And it's too complicated. What we have found, especially in the United States, is people do not vote their pocketbook. And when people on the left try to agitate and get people angry about their reduced financial status, their reduced take-home pay, their reduced piece of the national pie, it just doesn't work compared to talking about, oh, your daughter may have to swim against a trans swimmer in a high school swim meet. That is something easier for people to understand. It generates more anger, and that is uniquely suited to right-wing demagogues, populists, and authoritarians. So where do we really go from here? I happen to believe that centrist, by the way, the Democratic Party in the United States is constantly portrayed as left, too far to the left, too extreme. The United States Democratic Party, if you look at the spectrum of democracies around the world, in Europe, Australia, other places, it's a center party. You can make a strong case that the Democratic Party in the United States would be considered a center-right party, not even liberal or left. But it's very hard to convince people otherwise here in the United States when they are brainwashed with a marketing message all day long that the Democrats are far, far left. But we'll have to leave that. Well, we'll leave that to issue 4 or issue 5 today. That is coming up. So, where are we to really go with this? Let's look at some more of the facts. The national rally in France is really polling ahead. It's doing extremely well. In UK, the right-wing party is now ahead of Labour and the Conservatives. Germany, the AfD, is ahead of other major parties. Immigration issues in Germany, foreign-born is at 22% in 2024. That's high for Germany. In the United Kingdom, 4.5 million legal arrivals from 2021 to 2024. 29,000 have crossed the channel year to date. And in Germany, a negative 3% growth in the last quarter. Anytime you have an economy shrinking, it gives rise to populists who want to say, hey, it's the fault of these foreigners, these immigrants, these people who don't look like you. Let's get them out. Let's kick them out and everything will be great again. It's a message that inherently plays well. Other details. The immigration plus cost of living, according to many analysts, is fueling this far-right rise. What's the solution? Because when you have certain countries absolutely imploding, as we have in recent years, whether it's Syria, whether it's Libya, whether it is other places in the Middle East, and you have vast, vast millions of people fleeing their country for very survival, willing to claw their way out, just not to die. The world, especially the advanced world, the developed world, has traditionally said, okay, you can seek asylum, you can come here. We don't want to see millions of people dying, and we will let you in. That theory, that principle of fundamental decency is being challenged right now. It's being stress tested because people tend to be more generous when things are going well. If they see their own standard of living going down, all of a sudden they get very, very quick to circle the wagons and say, let's do everything just for us. Forget these others for now. More to come in a moment. We'll be right back after this break. Want more? Grab my 5-book success library for $9.95 at tjwalker.com/books. It's the fastest way to level up your communication. Imagine being the most confident person in the room, whether you're on Zoom or on stage. That's what thousands of professionals are learning to do right now through my online communication courses. At Media Training Worldwide, you can access my complete training library on demand, affordable, and actually effective. Whether you're preparing for media interviews, client presentations, or TED-style talks, I've got you covered. Check it out, MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. You'll never wing it again. Want to advertise here? You better be legit. No crypto, no junk food, no supplements. Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. Okay, we are back. I'm TJ Walker. Thanks for joining me today. Issue 3, the Dutch 4-day work week. According to the Financial Times, the Netherlands has quietly become a test case for shorter working weeks. Average weekly hours are just over 32, the lowest in the European Union. Increasingly, full-time workers compress their hours into 4 days instead of 5. The trend began decades ago when women entered the workforce in part-time roles, creating what was called a 1.5 earner model. That's 1.5 earners per family. Over time, men began adopting shorter schedules too, especially when raising children. Critics warn about lost output and labor shortages, particularly in schools. Supporters point to high productivity, one of the highest employment rates in Europe, and the striking fact that Dutch children rank among the happiest in the world. Okay, so what's the real message here? Are the Dutch just lazy because they only work 4 days a week? Well, no, it's a big world out there. There's different ways of doing things. If you can work and make the money you want to support the lifestyle you want, then good for you. Don't do what everyone else does. I mean, the world used to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Work in a way that works for you and your family and your country. So hats off to the Dutch. Let's dig a little deeper here. This is interesting because John Maynard Keynes predicted more than 100 years ago that because of technology, it's almost as if he predicted artificial intelligence. Because of technology, we will get to the point where most people don't have to work at all, or at most do 15 hours a week, and we can devote the rest of our time to poetry, reading, reflection, sport, having fun. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but there is something to this notion, at least for some people. Let's look a little more detail about what's going on here with the Dutch. So they're averaging 32.1 hours per week. The 4-day work week is increasingly common. They have an 82% employment rate. That's actually much among working age people. That's actually much higher than the United States has, which is in the 70s. So you can't call the Dutch lazy. Their productivity per hour remains high. Women are still more likely to work part-time there than full-time. There are labor shortages, but the Dutch children are some of the happiest children in the world because presumably they're spending more time with their parents rather than home alone or daycare. So this is worth studying. I think it is a role model for some people. Now, I feel a little silly talking about this or glamorizing this when those of you who watch this show realize, hey, isn't TJ a hypocrite? Isn't he working 7 days a week? Oh, yes, I am, but I'm not working 12-hour days or 8 hours a day. And I happen to have a job doing this show that is also my hobby. So it's not exactly like having to go to a factory or dig ditches and doing things where I'm doing it just for the money. We are increasingly living in a bifurcated economy where many of the wealthiest people in the world are working the most hours. You think of so many investment bankers, lawyers, partnered at top law firms, some of them working 80 hours a week. They might make $10 million a year, but they're working long hours. So many of the so-called masters of the universe pride themselves in working very few, are taking very few days off, not sleeping. Certainly you look at Wall Street culture and it's often go, 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 go. And so the wealthiest people these days are often working the most hours. It's not like the Gilded Age where many people who were born wealthy prided themselves in being a gentleman and gentle ladies of the country, where it was deemed almost gauche to work. These days, rich people pride themselves in working, starting businesses, being the CEOs of 14 companies, the way Elon Musk does. So it's not quite the way it used to be. I think we got to look at this from a couple of different ways. If you are running a business and you're expanding a business and making it bigger, if you can figure out a way of serving your clients first, your customers first, and organizing your labor flow so that people can do a great job and work 4 days a week. Let's not copy Tim Ferriss and be the 4-hour work week. That's not going to work for most people. And in fact, it's not what Tim Ferriss does either. So if you're a business and you can figure out how to staff your company so that people only work 4 days a week, I think you're going to have a huge, tremendous advantage in getting people to want to work for you. Because it is much more relaxing to have 3 days off to truly unwind, to take a vacation, to go to another town, to visit relatives somewhere, to just decompress at home, to have a staycation. There is something about having 3 days off that is a lot more relaxing, I think. Now, let's boil this down to what it actually means for you and me for our own careers. If you truly want to be number one in the world at something, I don't think you can really flip the switch off, certainly not early in your career until you've established yourself as number one. We also need to define what's work. If you're having to drive an hour to an office and you're in a high stress situation all day long and you have an hour drive home, you're going to be thoroughly exhausted after 4 days. So it may, in fact, be a lot better for you to have 3 days off if you can do that and earn the income you want. I will say, though, one of the factors of this thing and the internet is your clients and customers, they want everything now. So the rewards are going to go to the people who respond the fastest. So if it's Thursday afternoon and you're clocking out at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and it's your own business, and a customer wants your product or your service at 4:01 on Thursday, and they don't hear from you till Monday morning at 9 a.m., you're not going to get their business. So I do not think this model works for most people who have their own businesses. If they're a consultant, if you are a trainer, a speaker, anyone selling a product on Etsy, to have 3 whole days go by and a client who wanted to do business with you, who wanted to hand you money, for them to have to wait 3 days, they're going to assume you're out of business. So it doesn't work for anyone. But let's face it, most people in modern advanced economies are not entrepreneurs. Most people do work for larger companies. Now, I don't mean larger in the sense that it's got to be Walmart and you're part of millions. It could be a company with 3 dozen people. You're part of a larger company. So if you've got other people working on other days and covering for you, it may in fact work well. Back to my point of if you want to become number one at something, those of you who've taken any of my courses on career development, how to be successful, how to make more money, know I actually advocate that the best way to make money is not just to follow the trends and go into computer science because that was a hot field, or become a doctor because that's what your mother wanted you to do. It's to figure out something where you can be number one in the world, where you have a passion for it, an interest in it, a talent in it, and where the marketplace values it at some level. If you can be number one in the world, you can make money from it in a lot of different ways. I've done that in my own business. I decided very early, not early in my life, but 30 years ago, I wanted to be number one when it comes to the niche of media training, a particular branch of communication skills training. And I wrote about it every single day, and I wrote books on it. And back then I made DVDs and CDs on the topic. And I posted blogs and sent newsletters 7 days a week. And it got to the point, if you went to Google and typed in media training, boom, I was the first one you found. And to this day, if you go on major online learning platforms like Udemy and you type in communication skills, you'll see that I have 12 million student enrollments for my various courses. So I'm arguably number one. Now, could other people make that claim? Yeah, but I can say it with a straight face when a prospect calls me up or emails me. That gives me pricing power. I'm allowed to charge more. Because I can charge more, I can then make enough money to take time off and to control my own schedule. So that is what I think is a tactic that works really well for a lot of people in their career, especially if you don't want to play the office politics game to work your way up to becoming the CEO or getting a top corner office at a major Fortune 500 company. I don't think you can only work 4 days a week and become arguably number one in a particular niche. If you've already become number one, then you can take control over your own schedule. Maybe you only take phone calls or meetings 4 days a week. Maybe you only travel 4 days a week, but the rest of the time you're at least thinking about other things. Paul McCartney is arguably the number one musician in the world when it comes to singing Beatles music and singing Paul McCartney music. He doesn't play every day. He doesn't travel every day or perform, but I guarantee you he's thinking about music every day. Jerry Seinfeld isn't performing in front of 5,000 people every day, but he spends at least some time every day writing at least one joke. That's according to his own strategy of how to be successful. I do think you've got to figure out how to be engaged at some level in an enterprise, in an industry you care about. Thinking about it, whether you're writing, thinking, creating a video, spend some time every day thinking about it, and that helps protect you long run so that you can make more money and have protection from competition. But I applaud companies that can figure out how to do this because it does make it a lot more attractive to primary caregivers. And I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but in most democracies, certainly the United States, the women in a household do, not always, I understand, but women on average do more childcare than men. So being able to have a full-time job with benefits, perks, retirement, and only working 4 days a week does make it a lot more attractive to men and women, but arguably it's even more attractive to some women who have so many childcare responsibilities. And then if you have kids, if you have family, spending more time with them has got to be attractive, especially when they're younger. I can tell you, I transitioned from working away from the home to a home office right when my daughter was born. And it meant so much to me. I mean, I might work hard, I might travel some months, but my average day, I could get up from my own office, from my own studio, at least once an hour and go hug my daughter when she was younger. Now she is in school, but I can see her when she's home for days when I'm not traveling. So there's real value to that. To me, the key is if you are a company, you got to figure out how can you serve your clients, your customers the most effective way and be as attractive as possible to the talent pool you're after. And if that means giving people 4-day work weeks, 2-day work weeks, whatever it takes, if it's profitable for your business, makes your customers happy, and also makes it easier for you to attract top talent, then by all means, put it to work. Filtered is brought to you by the following. Get the deeper takes I don't post anywhere else. Subscribe now at substack.com/@TJWalkerSuccess and stay in the loop. For years, people have asked how they could get one-on-one coaching from me inexpensively. Well, now you can, anytime, anywhere with the TJ Walker AI clone. It's like having me in your pocket, ready to help you prep for a speech, polish a pitch, or calm your nerves before a big meeting. You talk to it, it responds like I would, based on my real-world coaching of thousands of leaders and communicators. Check it out at tjwalker.ai. It's not just smart, it's personal. Want to support the show? Skip the ads and buy me a coffee. That's buymeacoffee.com/TJWalker. There we go. Slight technical difficulty there. Hi, I'm TJ Walker. This is Filtered. We look at the top stories of the day, filtered through the lens of communication skills with the goal of you not just learning about the news and getting depressed, but learning about the news and what it takes for you to be more successful from learning the key elements. Story 4, JB Pritzker's weight and 2028. According to Politico, Illinois Governor JB Pritzker looks slimmer on the campaign trail right now, and it's sparking speculation about 2028. Pritzker, seeking a third term, brushed it off as just something he's doing for health. But even President Trump has taken notice, telling reporters the Democrat should spend more time in the gym before adding that maybe he has a chance at the presidency. Pritzker fired back, calling Trump a bully and noting the president himself is not in good shape. Consultants say weight loss has long been a part of pre-campaign image makeovers, but experts caution that appearance isn't everything. As University of Southern California's Bob Shrum put it, the weight of their ideas will count a lot more. Still, the slimmer look may help Pritzker endure the grueling marathon of a national campaign. So what's really going on here? What's the real message? Like it or not, it's not fair, it's not right. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but American voters are superficial. And if JB Pritzker is serious about running for president, I think he's smart doing what he appears to be doing. He's losing weight. President Taft happened a long time ago before there were any TV cameras around. And we really haven't had anyone other than the current president who appeared to be seriously overweight and win in the last 90 or so years. So it is a real sign of seriousness to slim down. Maybe not fair, but it is political reality. Let's dig a little deeper here. There is a long tradition of people thinking, okay, I want to run for president. I better look the part. For better or worse, Americans do not have an image of their president as someone who's obese. Now, again, times change because in the past, if you had told me 10 years ago, Americans are going to embrace the image of a president who paints his face really weirdly orange every day and has cotton candy bleach blonde hair like Marilyn Monroe, I would have told you that's crazy. Americans will never go for that. So you never know completely. Things do change. But all things being equal, if you're a candidate and you are trying to get people to take you more seriously, to do stories that are positive about you, slimming down, looking healthier, looking more athletic cannot hurt. It does remind me, Chris Christie, the former governor of New Jersey, did start to slim down. He actually had the bypass surgery, the stomach stapling surgery back when he was running for president. Mike Huckabee lost like 90 pounds when he was running for president because he, by his own admission, was very obese. As governor and addicted to fast food and junk food, when he was governor of Arkansas, he wrote a whole book about how much weight he'd lost. And I still remember the cover where he's holding up his old pants that looked like you could put a barnyard in it. He got a lot of positive attention. And, people don't remember how good a candidate Mike Huckabee was and what a good communicator he was. He's currently the United States ambassador to Israel, a skilled communicator. Then Pompeo, this was the Secretary of State in the first Trump administration, was considering running for president the last go around and lost, again, also about 90 pounds. Even Jeb Bush, the former president's brother and the governor of Florida, former governor of Florida, lost a bunch of weight as he was starting to run for president in 2016. Didn't seem to help him much. So what's my advice to you? First and foremost, forget about your image, forget about whether you can be president. I want you to be healthy to live as long as you possibly can. That should be the number one goal. Not about looking pretty, not about appealing to voters, but when it comes to your own body, I think the number one thing you've got to think about is what's actually the healthiest for you. By every single metric, people who are above average in weight and are considered overweight, certainly the obese, dramatically increase their odds of diabetes, hypertension, stroke, heart attack, various cancers, and often reduce their overall lifespan by 10, sometimes 15 years. So, you had me at living another 10 to 15 years. Forget about looking good. Forget about being the centerfold of a fashion magazine. That's not going to happen to me. Probably won't happen to you. Just live longer. And there is a massive, massive problem in the United States and increasingly everywhere in the world where we as humans are gorging ourselves with way too much food, way too many calories, way too many junk calories with processed carbohydrates, processed sugar, and it's making us the heaviest generation of all time. Sad to see, just today, former CBS White House correspondent passed away at age 72. He was considered one of the best historians of the White House, one of the best reporters ever, longtime CBS White House correspondent, died at 72. Now, you can say 72 is not that young, but he was, by any stretch of the imagination, obese. And you have to think someone like that, well educated, high income, intellectually stimulated and active his whole life, should have lasted till 80s, maybe 90s, if it weren't for the obesity. One legitimate reason I do think Americans can judge a president on this issue is the very real concern. Do we want to see this president live through their full term? There are people who have so many health problems, with obesity being one of the indicators, that it does make you wonder, is this person going to fall over and have a heart attack tomorrow? Can that veer into fat phobia and bigotry and bad stereo? Yeah, it can, but it's a fine line. If you see someone who, let's say, is 500 pounds, and I'm not saying Governor Pritzker is 500 pounds, but if you see someone 500 pounds, it's almost mathematically, empirically impossible for that person not to have diabetes. It's almost mathematically, empirically impossible for that person not to be at very high risk of heart attack. Do you want to give the single most stressful job in the entire world to someone at high risk of a heart attack? I don't think so. So, Governor Pritzker, I think you're onto something with trying to lose weight just for health reasons, which is what he says. But I also think it's good politics. It's smart. Now, let's switch over and talk about you and me. You might not want to be president of the United States. I'm not trying to become president of the United States. But if you do anything where other people can look at you and see you, they are judging you. You can say it's not fair. You can say it's not right. People are judging you. They're judging your weight. They're judging if you look physically active, if you look physically fit. They're judging you on whether or not you seem to have habits of good daily health, if you seem energetic. Now, some of you can look at me and say, wow, TJ, you look old and bald. You don't have much hair. You look old. Other people can look at me and say, wow, TJ, you appear to have much more energy than people 20 years younger than you. And it's because I lift weights every day. I run every day. I try to eat very, very healthy food. I meditate every day. I do a lot of basic habits every single day, not to get higher ratings on YouTube. I do it because I want to be healthy and I want to live a long time. Because so much of being successful, whether you're in politics, business, or anything else, it's just being successful at life. And that means living longer. Look at someone like Warren Buffett. He doesn't exactly look buff. That's not where he gets his name. But the vast, vast majority of his fortune was made after he hit the age of 65. From 65 to his mid-90s is where he's made something like 82% of his billions of dollars. So if you are trying to become successful in your career, successful in business, successful in your own net worth, part of it can simply be being healthy for much longer than your competitors, being healthy long enough to achieve success. I know I didn't really have much financial success at all till I was nearly 40. So if I died at age 39, I would have died a pauper. I would have to go back and do the math. I might have died with negative net worth if I had died, statistically speaking, when most human beings died throughout humanity, because let's not forget, most humans died at around 30, 35, until the advent of antibiotics and vaccines in the last couple hundred years. So I want you to take your health seriously, not about vanity, but your weight is one metric. And it is a metric that other people can see too. So I think that in most organizations, in most fields, when people are trying to think about who's with us for the long haul, who's got the energy for a new job, a stressful job, a job that might involve traveling around the world, speaking on behalf of people to different cultures, being physically fit and a weight that is an appropriate weight for your frame is going to be a huge, huge asset. It is something we should all work towards every day with our daily habits. We'll be right back after this break. Want to advertise here? You better be legit. No crypto, no junk food, no supplements. Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. Most people can't afford a full-time coach. And even if you could, good luck finding one who's available when you need them. That's why I created the TJ Walker AI clone. It's built on my 40-plus years of real-world coaching and training. You get my exact advice, style, and frameworks instantly. Ask it how to handle a tough question, get feedback on your elevator pitch, rehearse your next big talk. This is the next generation of communication coaching. It's smarter than an app, more personal than a course, and always ready. Start using it today at tjwalker.ai. You'll wonder how you ever did without it. Want to advertise to ambitious upscale professionals who actually care about communication, success, and results? Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. And no, we don't take ads for crypto, supplements, or junk food. If you've ever struggled with nerves, unclear messaging, or just not being taken seriously, this is for you. I created the TJ Walker Success Library as a crash course in professional level communication. You get 5 downloadable books for just $9.95 that walk you through public speaking, media training, persuasive communication, confidence building, and daily practice routines. This is the same training I've delivered to presidents, CEOs, and leaders in 45 nations, boiled down and instantly accessible. Go to tjwalker.com/books and download them now. The MAGA outrage strategy. According to the New York Times columnist David French, 2 recent cultural flare-ups, the American Eagle ad with actress Sydney Sweeney and Cracker Barrel's short-lived logo change, show how right-wing media thrives on outrage. French, you should realize, even though he works for the New York Times, is a conservative lawyer and an Iraq War veteran. He says these incidents illustrate how trivia gets elevated into crisis. Fox News mentioned Sydney Sweeney 766 times in 1 week, compared to just 53 mentions of Jeffrey Epstein during the same period. Trump even chimed in, praising Sweeney's ad as the hottest on the market. Then came the Cracker Barrel controversy, where a plain font logo was declared woke. Activist Christopher Ruffalo said the goal was to create a, quote, massive pressure against companies, considering any hint of wokeification. Trump joined in, demanding the old logo return. French argues this pattern illustrates a deliberate strategy. Outrage distracts from genuine scandals, keeping conservatives angry and fuels MAGA's will to power. As he puts it, quote, I want to share this quote. It's an extensive quote, but it's extraordinarily important, and it's coming from a conservative. Quote, if you had to sum up the mission of right-wing media in a sentence, it would be, Democrats are weird, humorless, and evil, and they want to destroy your way of life. No distinction should be made between the Democrats and the far left. Anything that any far left activist does is automatically attributed to the Democratic Party. And so the Democratic Party has to answer for anything the far left does. Okay, well said, David French. All right, what's the real message here? We have a crisis in the media in that Fox and all the right-wing media now say anything that they don't like is woke. And if it's woke, it's automatically beyond the pale and doesn't even need to be debated. And anything a far left extremist does is automatically assumed to be what every single Democrat believes. This creates an environment where no Democrat can ever win any debate, and that means no democracy. Let's dig a little deeper here. The great irony, which David French points out, is the right-wingers are so against, cancel culture. The worst thing in the world is far-left cancel culture. And as he points out, they're not against cancel culture. It's just they want to be able to do the canceling. They canceled Cracker Barrel's new logo. And we've talked a lot about that on this show, which is Cracker Barrel went from having a logo that said Cracker Barrel and an old man leaning on a barrel to just a logo that says Cracker Barrel. That's it. And now you have the right wing reading into this, all these evil intents. Oh, Cracker Barrel's trying to become woke. Really? How about a company that's seeing its profits decline, its revenues decline, and its brand looking stodgy, wanting to just do something to spruce up its brand? How about a private sector company wanting to do what it wants to do based on its private sector consultants rather than worrying about the president of the United States telling them they have to change their logo, which is what socialist countries do. It's what authoritarian-led countries do, not free market enterprise countries doing. So the other odd thing here is you've got the right wing trying to cancel decisions made by Cracker Barrel. And you've got right-wing extremists trying to cancel the very career of the CEO of Cracker Barrel, trying to get her fired. There have been numerous calls for her to be fired for committing the grievous sin of having a logo with the name of the company on the logo and nothing else. So French has put his finger on it. We've gone from arguably what was somewhat of a problem, where there was a left-turn movement that says anybody who doesn't use full profiles exactly the way everyone else wants to is not woke, and that's bad. That was ridiculed, perhaps rightly so. To now, it's morphed into this weird, bizarre thing where conservatives are saying, anything I don't like, all I have to do is say those people are being woke. And, oh, the debate's over. I've won the debate because, hey, once you put a label of woke on something, it's despicable and should be despised, and all right-thinking people should despise that thing. Now, a theme I've talked about continuously on this show, and will have to create some kind of balance in the world, is that there's always dumb ideas circulating in the world. It used to be when I was a kid growing up and you had 3 TV stations and maybe 1 newspaper in a town, the dumb ideas didn't get any attention. You talked to your friend about a dumb idea, they shared a dumb idea with you. It didn't get into the 1 mainstream newspaper in your town or the New York Times. It didn't get on CBS, NBC, or ABC. Well, now, as you know, we have this thing called the internet. And now anyone with a dumb idea can post it on Facebook or Twitter, X, or some social media platform. And I don't know if there are any more dumb people in the world now than before, but there's always been dumb people. There always will be. What's new is these ideas get put out in the world. There are dumb people on the right who say things like, all immigrants should be murdered. It's said every day on the internet. All Jews should be slaughtered. It's said every day on the internet somewhere. These are people who align themselves with non-liberal, non-progressive causes, issues, and parties. There are people on the right who say things like, anyone but a white person should be executed or kicked out of the country. It's said every day on the right. Here's what's different, though. You don't see every commentator on MSNBC saying, well, here's Joe Smith, somebody no one's ever heard of before, and he says only white people should be allowed to live in America. Therefore, every Republican believes that, and every Republican candidate has to defend that position or deny it. That just doesn't happen in America, and it doesn't happen in this media ecosystem. The opposite is true. If anyone who's not officially a card-carrying conservative or MAGA member says something stupid, like, oh, Sydney Sweeney must be promoting Nazi beliefs because she's good-looking and blonde and wearing nice jeans and says she has nice jeans, that instantly is put as a label and an identifier for every single Democrat, even though there's no major Democrat who's endorsed that position. Every single liberal, every single progressive, the Democratic Party as a whole has to somehow defend that position. So what happens is we created an ecosystem where a Republican can get away with anything. You can spend all your time hanging out with Epstein and oogling teenage girls, and no one's going to talk about that on Fox. Don't listen to me. Look at the facts. This is according to a major media estimate who actually counted. In 1 week, Fox News mentioned Sydney Sweeney 766 times. Meanwhile, the whole world, including the MAGA base, wants to know about Donald Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. If in fact the two of them did participate in orgies with underage girls, a lot of people want to know about that, was not even mentioned 10% of the time in that week. 53 mentions of Epstein on Fox News at the same time that 766 mentions of Sydney Sweeney. So this is a massive distraction machine. So it does a couple of things. And this is happening in democracies around the world. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in Western Europe, whereby those on the right figure, let's kill a couple birds with one stone. If we just talk about some idiot, stupid thing that somebody who isn't a conservative said, if we just spend all of our time talking about that, A, it'll make every voter hate those people. B, we can continue doing all sorts of horrible things, destroying the environment, destroying people's health by getting rid of their vaccines, cutting taxes on the wealthy, and raising taxes on poor and middle-class people by calling it tariffs. No one's going to notice that because everyone's going to be looking at this silly, trivial thing of the next Sydney Sweeney ad. So it really solves all of the problems for people who want to destroy democracy, who want to destroy the prospect of any kind of centrist or moderate having political power. And it gives all the powers to right-wing demagogues and populists. That's a part of what we're trying to change here. This is not a political show. I know it seems odd for me saying that. I'm trying to create an environment, a media show, where you can learn about what's going on in the news, business news, technology news, economic news, and culture news, with the idea of learning how to be a better communicator and to have stronger personal skills so you can be more successful. That is our goal right here on this show. And unfortunately, with the rise of populist demagogues around the world, it's hard to do that. I want to thank you for joining me. Tomorrow is Labor Day in the United States. I will be here with you celebrating Labor Day, honoring those who do labor for a living, and celebrating the fact that I get to have fun here with you. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.